Before you can understand Shia Islam in America, it's important to understand Islam in general and its history in the United States. So right now we're going to visit one of the first masjids in the United States. It was actually started by the Ambadian movement. This was one of the first mosques and one of the first Muslim communities. It happened to be in Chicago. This is the exact location that it happened to be. The Ambadian movement was something that was started in India as an offshoot from mainstream Islam. They were very progressive in terms of conversion and doing dawah, and that's one of the reasons why they came here in the 1920s. We're at the first Ahmadiyya mosque in the United States. It was founded in the 1920s. It's called the Al-Sadiq Mosque. This is originally also a center that was primarily inhabited by converts to Islam. The founder of this masjid converted thousands of people between Chicago and Detroit. And a lot of his work were the inspirations for the founders of Nation of Islam as well. A lot of notable figures have passed through this masjid in history. Many key people from the Nation of Islam, key people in the Pan-African movement in the United States as well. We're here at the Mariam Mosque. This is the headquarters of the Nation of Islam. Many people in the West were first introduced to the concept of Islam through the Nation of Islam movement. Although there's a debate at whether Nation of Islam is regarded as a legitimate Islamic organization, there is without a doubt the Nation of Islam has had a large impact on the perception and concept of Islam in the West. They were instrumental in converting tens of thousands of individuals to Islam, introducing them to the Quran, and moreover, many of them had later progressed into other denominations of Islam, notably individuals like Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. This is a historic site. Nation of Islam has always regarded Chicago as where they started. They refer to Chicago actually as their Mecca, right? In contrast, Detroit was their Medina, because those two were the main hubs for the Nation of Islam movement. As the Muslim community in Chicago developed and matured, many of the Muslims that were first introduced to Islam through Nation of Islam, they converted and joined mainstream Islam. Behind me is Al-Fatir Mosque. Masjid Al-Fatir is one of the main mosques in Chicago for the African American community. This mosque was originally funded by Muhammad Ali, and it was built in the 1980s.
In general, for North America, there's always been Muslims coming here. Not always, but for several centuries. There you'll see records of more sailors that came here, Muslims that came as slaves, Muslims that came, even before that from West Africa, indications of Muslim sailors, explorers. Even if you look at Christopher Columbus, the people that knew how to sail to the Americas were Muslims. They were, they're Moorish. And there's signs and remnants to that even till today. You'll see, but more importantly, what's in more kind of established modern history, Islam in Chicago has a strong presence. This is where Nation of Islam started. Before that, they had something called the Moorish Science Temple, and within the African American community over here, Islam has a strong foundation. Most African Americans that you see in Chicago that have been there for several generations will have Muslim relatives, Muslim families, especially in the south side of Chicago. Even some of the gangs that were created in Chicago that their backgrounds were actually within Islam. Well, they would subscribe to Islam. There's, for example, if you look into the Blackstones, they were a gang that called themselves Sunni Muslims. They had their own masjids, but they're also doing violent crimes at the same time.
There has been a Muslim influence
for the past, I don't know, at least 100 years. And we see it definitely with some of the icons around, some of the fraternal orders that are around here. So there's the Medina Shriners are one of them that are it's the Medina Shriners essentially. So we see them, having the Islamic iconography across their symbols, even the way their culture is set up. So there's very definitely an influence of Islam there, and I think that group dates into the late 1800s. Even some of the architecture in the city of Chicago has that elements. There's actually what's now a Bloomingdale's in downtown Chicago. It was a Shriners meeting house at some point. They have a museum on their, I think it's the third or fourth floor that's up there that has a lot of the old artifacts from when they first started, and everything is very Arab, very Islamic. Even some of their stuff, it says Bismillah on it, and you'll see it. But as far as the Shia community goes, it really started even in the late 60s, but early 70s, as people were immigrating over here, they just found each other, in different ways, and started building, whatever the early starts of these centers that we have today.
I started applying to the schools in this country, and so I got an admission in Miami, and then there's one in Chicago, and so I decided to take the one in Chicago in a junior college. I just came to Chicago, and actually I didn't have any money. I mean, when I started, I came in with $12 in my pocket. That's all I had, and no place to live or anything. I didn't even know where to go. When I landed at the O'Hare Airport, and the college was in downtown Chicago, and I didn't even know how to get to downtown Chicago. This is January 23rd, 1971. Okay, so it gets pretty cold in here. I had no warm clothes that time. All I had a little sweater my mother knit for me. That's what I was wearing, and I had a blazer, the college blazer. It wasn't really heavy or anything. So I waved a taxi. So I got into the taxi, and I said, I want to go to this YMCA junior college. That's what I had the admission for. So I'm going there, and when I got there, it was dark. I went there, the door was locked. So I tried to open the door, and the door was locked. So now I'm getting a little nervous because I have no money. I see a car pulls over. It's a red convertible, pulls over there, and a girl walks out of the car. I stopped her. I said, I just came here to this country, and I don't know where to go. And she kind of looked at me. She said, oh, okay, just hang on a second. So she goes back to the car, and there's, I don't know, either her boyfriend or whoever. There's another guy in the car, and I see the guy walked out of the car, and I had a little suitcase. He took my suitcase and put it in the car. He said, let's go.
Muslims, especially from the India-Pakistan community, started coming here after the civil rights movement. What happened with the civil rights movement in the United States was they started opening up visas to places where people had colored skin, right? Muslims probably were coming here and there on very small populations and certain pockets here and special visas here and there, but it wasn't really opened up until after the civil rights movement, mostly in the late 60s, early 70s, and that's where some of my my older uncles, they came around then, and they started settled here. A few decades later, our family emigrated here. I came here myself when I was about a baby, about 4 months old, in 1988 at the time.
The first time I came in 1960, to Boston to do my MBA. And that's when I went to school. And at that time, there was hardly any Shia at that time. So I brought some, I stayed with my cousin and his wife, Dr. Taqi Khan and his wife. And I brought some, alam from home at that time so that I can do some azadari at home in the apartment. And that's why we started doing azadari at that time. There was no one to even talk to, at that time. This was very strange time.
We wanted to, when it was like close to the Muharram time, and at that time I had a roommate who was a Shia, and he said, it's Muharram is going to be starting, and there's no activity, there's nothing going on. So we decided to have a majlis. We go to this junior college, it's a YMCA junior college, and so I said, who's going to come to the majlis? We don't know any Shia person here. So he said, he wrote on a piece of paper, he said, Majlis Aza is going to be held. He put our address and all that, and the phone number also. And, the hallways of the college. So he put a little piece of paper and put a little tape and put it on the hallway. And then we came home, and there's people start calling, and we couldn't understand how they find out about the majlis. We cooked and stuff and prepared everything with the majlis. And this is still 1971. And so we did that, and these people came. There's one of the guy came, he did the Soskani. He was a Soskan. He said, I'm Soskan, can I recite? I said, go ahead, recite. So he recited, and what he recited, I still memorized. I memorized the words he recited. I still read that today, for even these majlises now.
We didn't have any center or any organization at that time. This was in I came here in 1970, second time with my family. And 71, when we had Muharram, there was Ashur Day. Before that, I asked some of the Shia people who were here, maybe like 5, 7, 10 people that I knew. And I said, is there any program that you have here for Muharram? So he said, no, we never had any program. So I arranged Ashur Majlis, afternoon Majlis at my residence in Chicago, Winthrop Avenue in Chicago. And I invited, the people, the families that I knew. There were like 10, 15 families, 20 maybe. We started communicating, writing letters to Agha Hui for him to donate us to buy a center. And at that time, the center that we located in Chicago was for $27,000 or $29,000. I don't have exact number or figure number. So we wrote to Agha Hui, and Agha Hui was so delighted that his office sent a letter saying that we are awarding $37,000 for your center.
Hussaini Center is the first Shia Islamic center here in Chicago, and one of the oldest centers of the country of United States. Our community, when it started the programs, they are the people who first invited very famous ulama and orators from India and Pakistan. This organization, Hussaini organization or IEC, is something that belongs to Marja, everything. As means the mutawalli, the real mutawalli is Marja. And he appoints the Marja A'la, the one who is the Marja of the Ta'ifa. He will then appoint an alim. He should be alim, qualified scholar, as his representative to take care of this center. So this was a church. They bought this church, converted this church into a center, Islamic center. And they had the first majalis for first 10 days of Muharram here, and I recited those majalis.
Actually, I was working for the United States Information Service in Karachi and Islamabad and Pindi, and I used to work for their magazine, Panorama magazine, American News and Views, and one Urdu language, Mashrab. Then I found out that it is going to be ceased publication, so I thought it's better. I cannot work in any other category or trade. So I got a special visa and came here in 74. When I came in December 1974, I found out Brother Asad Rizvi established the Hussaini Association of Greater Chicago Incorporated in February 1972. And so we used to go to different houses for majalis. I saw there were not too many Shias here. There were some Sunni brothers, and they had their own center here, which is called Muslim Community Center. Then they established Islamic Foundation, which is the greatest mosque in Chicago of Sunni brothers. But I mean, we also go there. So otherwise, we were only limited Shias in here.
It was, them putting together whatever they could, either having, a video, sometimes they played the same majlis every day, every time, because they only had one majlis. They had that, they would play it on a small TV in a living room, and there would be like 6, 7 of them gathering to do a majlis, and it was really them just finding a way to express their faith, and it was unifying to them, because really, I mean, if you look at it, yes, they're from all from India, Pakistan, especially getting my dad's side of the stories, but they're all from different regions in India and Pakistan. Normally back home, they weren't interacting with each other. They would never have met each other. But the thing that unified them was coming together as Shia Muslim. And so you have this group that are Indian Hyderabadi, and then you have these people that are like Mahajir Pakistani coming together and creating a center together, which at that time, I guess from their perspective is almost unheard of.
I feel very privileged to have started the organization, and I really thank Janab Sayyida for giving me the opportunity to do that. But it is flourishing.
Of course, I'm happy to see all that. I mean, the way it got evolved, because I saw from like nothing to this point. So there's a lot went through to evolve to this point.
As a Shia, the first challenge was the fact of being a Muslim. My name is Muhammad, right? So there's no denying the fact that I'm a Muslim. But at the very beginning, especially when I came here, most people weren't even familiar with what Muslims were. Even, I'm talking about in the 90s, when I was growing up as a child. It was kind of a foreign concept. There was a thing that were Muslims, but this wasn't something that people had a working understanding, working knowledge of what a Muslim is. It was new to most people. And because of that, it was very hard to be open about your religion. But as things happened, as we got older, around junior high school, 9/11 happened, and people, people became more aware of this concept of Muslims. Things progressed from there, but my challenges as a Shia Muslim in particular has been on twofold. One was that there was not much identity that we had with mainstream Muslims. Mainstream Muslims, as in Sunni Muslims, they do have their own challenges, but as a Shia, there wasn't a space for us in the public. They have, Sunni Muslims, in my opinion, have something as a Sunni privilege that exists. That exists in the sense that if you go to an MSA, right, where it should be a safe space for all Muslims, you are hesitant to pray as a Shia sometimes,
or you might be hesitant to, engage in dialogue about the Ahl Bayt, right? Because you might not feel safe in that environment. I've been in cases where I would pray at the praying area of our college university, and someone who would want to pray with me at the time find out the way I'm doing my ablution, my wudu, didn't want to pray after that with me. They would go somewhere else. And I've seen these things, and it's always a given. If you're a Sunni, you're good. This is how it's supposed to happen. So Shias had their own challenges in that it was very difficult for us to find a space outside of our own Hussainis.
The way I would describe it's been very dynamic. First of all, just growing up, looking back, it was a great experience. We had a great childhood, right? We were the center. We grew up in the center. It was small, couple families, then it grew to, a few families, then a few dozen families, and even the people that came a little bit after us, we all kind of grew up together. And so from that point, we were all very close because we would all come either during Muharram or during Ramadan or anything like that. We would come together and we had a good bond. We all kind of had, we were, I guess, brought into the same spot. And at that time, we would find ways to have fun. That's the kid thing to do, right? As we would find ways, sneak off, whether it was at this center now, when, there used to be woods back there, we would go explore the woods, and it was a good place for us to bond. We found ways to do that, but at the same time, our parents really ingrained the azadari aspect of it, or just being here. So whether that was Sunday school, or whether that was, being here for a majlis or a jashan or anything like that, it was very important that we were here. We were always here. That's always been, I guess, the difficult part for at least me. I know some other people in my generation as well. It's almost if we were living kind of, two separate lives, but our core values were always the same. They were based on Islam and, our Shia culture, right? But when we went out into school, for instance, I remember early on, especially, even in the 90s, taking a day off for Eid. I was afraid to tell my friends what Eid was, because I guess our parents never taught us to, talk about it in that way. I wouldn't say it was a struggle being religious, but then again, I'm male. I'm able to, do a little different. It was a little different for my sister. She started hijab, and that's a lot of questions, especially at, at the time the world wasn't as open as it is now, where it's accepting and more, I guess, normal for a hijabi to exist amongst everyone else. So it was different for us. Our parents almost had this side. It's like, okay, we live in this society, but we are not necessarily 100% part of it. Yes, we are part of it in the fact that we will participate in the community, help the community, but we're not, we don't always have a say in the society. And I feel like that's different from our generation, of course, but at that time, the center became the place that was ours, right? So we're here, we're able to, kind of be ourselves, whereas out there, we're kind of living by their rules, someone else's rules.
You got to put your right foot forward. I do want to say that when I was growing up, I wasn't too comfortable trying to give back to the community. But growing up, I knew that, when I got older, after I graduated college, I understood that, my role as a human being, as a Shia in the community, it's much larger than just something small, especially with the Ahl Bayt, giving so much to everyone around them. So growing up here was a blessing, really, because IEC Hussaini to me is like a home. And there's other mosques in the area, but it doesn't have that that feeling that IEC does. Like if you come in here, like you feel like the building is alive. There's like commotion in the air, but not always in different areas. And I'm not trying to bash on other areas or other mosques, but you know, just the whole family environment here. Like I feel like I could put like my arm around any uncle and like it'll be okay. Like they won't mind, you know. Like I could, but yeah, growing up here was definitely like a big blessing.
Alhamdulillah, Shias in Chicago are now well established as very good community, very active and very successful in all aspects, I would say, mashallah. The challenge is the same as everywhere, although this center is one of the centers where the youth are, mashallah, very much involved and have very good activities. But still we are concerned about our youth always. And I would say that whatever we do, still we are struggling to engage all the youth. Of course, youth are there, but most of the youth everywhere in this United States, and this is a global issue, not our issue, and it is not this center's issue or this community's, it is overall human issue. All the communities are suffering from this challenge, the same challenge we have here, and how to keep the youth with us, how to keep them engaged. So we're planning to have good English programs for them. They have seminars, they have camps, they have majalis in English, everything in English, and they are doing it, mashallah. Then we have monthly programs for them, girls and boys both.
The youth group, man, it didn't start off as soon as IEC started off, so it became like, I feel like established in maybe like the maybe like 2000s, when I was like about like 13. So it's just putting on events where everyone could just feel together, feel a part of something. And a really big, important part of why I wanted to be a part of the youth group was because I wanted to have everyone united. That's my number one goal as the IEC youth group director. I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with everyone. But as what we do is we hold events, sporting events and discussion events. Ever since COVID happened, it kind of took a step back on what we can do and what we can participate in. But it's still really lively. People are always hitting me up saying, "When's the next event? Like, when can we come on site?" But it's a little different now that COVID's happening. Inshallah, we'll be able to have more on-site programs. But what we do is just try to spread that unity among our youth and just make sure that everyone feels like like that brotherhood bond, that sisterhood bond. Just make sure everyone's comfortable with each other, because it's really important to establish that at a very young age, so when they do get older, they understand the importance of giving back to the community and being able to just spread that knowledge that they have of what a Shia means, being Shia means.
Now, at this moment, I feel like we have our own identity, right? As a Shia Muslim that has grown up in the West, primarily one that has South Asian, Pakistani culture, right? But going over to Pakistan, for example, when I'd go visit there, we did not fit for various reasons. A lot of it was culture shock and stuff, but even as much as we've tried to retain our own cultural values, there's definitely differences, just the way we grew up, the way we were raised. Over here, for sure, there's the same type of struggles, and when you're younger, you don't realize it. You think this is part of life, but a lot of those struggles were resulted in the fact that we were different. If you're the friends that you are with, for example, they're going to be doing things that you are going to refrain from, and then these discussions on religion start, and there's never going to be this closeness that you'd have with normal, for example, school friends or neighbors that you would have typically if you were the dominant culture or if you're the dominant religion, so these things. And that was more of a need for us to have a rich environment at our centers, a rich environment at our Hussainis, where we could actually now be ourselves.
Specifically, the Shia youth, the type of challenges that they face are definitely that Angrazi lifestyle. That balance, finding that balance. Like, man, it's peace. Like, Islam means peace, so a lot of challenges are revolve around peace and trying to instill that peace. For example, just what they go through in high school and what comes through at an early age, being having a darker skin, and definitely being able to realize that, hey, it's okay to be a Shia, it's okay to be brown, it's okay to have the same problems that other people had growing up here, and it's important for them to be able to speak on those challenges and come together kind of collectively and say, hey, this is going on.
The main challenges now, I think, is primarily with younger individuals. They're not having this identity or a place that they can fit in. Not all communities are as active as ours, but even within our own community over here, there are various challenges. I've grown up with many youths. I've seen them go in all different places. I've seen some people that have left the religion, or if not left the religion, have stopped practicing, right, growing up over here. People that I noticed that even had everything, they had great parents, they would come to the center. Maybe some of them were great reciters of Quran, great, great speakers, etc. about the Albert. I've seen people in all those categories that have even studied, in Hosa and seminary that have actually grown up with us but left the religion. And one thing that I noticed that kept the people that have stuck around, the people that are still that I see them coming to the center regularly, or I've seen them active with their religion. If they bring their children over here, etc. Most of those had some sort of tie with Azadari, had some sort of relationship. It wasn't that the relationship in their religion wasn't just at the mental level, intellectual level, that yes, this is the right religion, but it was at the emotional level, that no matter what happens in life, I can't leave Imam Hussein. No matter what happens in my life, I can't leave Bibi Zainab, I can't leave Mullah Abbas, I can't leave Imam Ali, I can't leave the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I will give you an example, small example. A friend of mine when I was in college, he was a person that was part of our Anjuman group at the time. He used to do Matam Latmiya. But he would come to me and start talking to me about atheistic ideas and start debating with me and saying, I read this book, I read that, etc. And I told him, I just stopped him right there and I said, okay, all right, what you're saying, all right. But let me tell you this. I know for a fact that you love Imam Ali. And if Imam Ali says there's a God, there's a God. And he just stopped everything at that point. He just stopped everything. He just like, you know what? If giving up God means giving up Imam Ali, I'm not going to give up God. Because there was this emotional tie. To be frank, that's what it is. And this is why they're the Safinat al-Najat. They're the Ark of Salvation. And I've seen it with my own eyes. In this own place, there's a flood of all these things that are going on, and the safe haven that we found is the Hussainis, right? There's no doubt about that.
Definitely the future, I feel like, is unity, definitely. I feel like the way that we're progressing, the way that IEC Hussaini has, what is done in such a small amount of time, it's definitely going to get better. We're definitely going to progress as a community, and I feel like the unity that we have is great, but inshallah in the future it's definitely going to be even more so better, and the ideas and the ideas that our Maulana has, it's very revolving around unity and establishing that around the national type of scene, so around all of America as a total, as like a whole.
खंजर में चलता देखूं आखिर हुसैन माहू कैसे.
I want to say Imam Hussein means everything to me, but it's more than that, right? It's my whole shape of my whole personality. It's shaped my personality, it's shaped my being. We come to the Hussaini Center. We're part of Untitled Hussaini. Everything is Hussaini, and it's that's who we are.
He's the savior. He's Imam Hussein. He's the teachings we follow every moment of our life. There's so much we have learned from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and not just his sacrifice, but the things he taught us. I mean, the biggest thing, to never bow down to a tyrant, against a tyrant.
There's no doubt, Imam Hussein has been a big impact in my life particularly, but moreover, when it comes down to me thinking about what I need to do in my life, there's one aspect of progressing in my career, providing for my family, being a good father, but there's this other aspect that's always there, that how am I serving my community? How am I serving the people around myself? How am I helping those around me? And Imam Hussein is in my opinion, is the driving factor for that. Be it through, if I want to give my time to the center, maybe teach over here at the center, maybe come here and help clean up or help organize something. It could be that if I'm trying to give my time to help with Who's Hussein organization, right? There's a lot of conflicts. We have to make these certain sacrifices in our life if we're going to be able to do these things, let's say at the center, or help those around us, help the needy around us. We need to sacrifice away from our own lives first. And Imam Hussein is a driving factor for that, because he sacrificed everything he had in his life for the humanity. So it's that he inspires me to make those small little slight sacrifices in my life so I can still get back into humanity. There's this concept in Islam is about hukukun nas. If we let this go, we've left everything. Every major civilization before the times of the Prophet, during the times of the ancient prophets, that had been destroyed, every civilization that had been destroyed, the first thing that they left was the hukuk and nas, the rights of human beings. Once they stopped looking after each other, that's when the azab started coming to them. And it's important for us to, no matter what happens in our life, never get so focused in ourselves and maybe our own families, our own possessions, that we forget about others. And that's Imam Hussein's inspiration, that was planted inside us, that's given us the ability to do that.
I came from a religious, family in Hyderabad, India. My grandfather had his own Ashur Khana, where he used to have majalis 10 days in Muharram, and used to invite, lot of ulamas from India, Pakistan, UP, and all that. So that's how I was very connected to that, and I felt that I was missing something when I came here. But the only thing I had in 1960, 61, 62, when I was going to Boston, for my MBA degree, the only thing was that I had some alam with me to do majalis at home with myself, my cousin and his wife. I'll say to Imam Hussein that you gave me this opportunity, and I am grateful to you and your family for giving me this opportunity. I am a gunagar person, but this was really good for me, and I really feel happy and privileged.
ज़ैनब की सदाई अब्बास कहाँ हो तुम जलते हुए ख़ैमों से ज़ैनब की सदाई अब्बास कहाँ हो तुम ना सर पे रही चादर ना सर पे रही चादर نہ میرا بچا بھائی عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی عباس کہاں ہو تم عباس چلے آؤ خیموں میں غریبوں کے بھوکے اور پیاسے ہیں لوٹے ہیں نصیبوں کے سجاد کو ہوش نہیں کلثوم ہے گھبرائی عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی عباس کہاں ہو تم شبیر چلا رن میں کئی روز کا پیاسا ہے تیروں سے ہوا چلنی مظلوم کا لاشا ہے نہ کفن ملا اس کو نہ قبر ہے بن پائی عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی عباس کہاں ہو تم ہے شمر کمینے نے معصوم سکینہ کے مارے ہے تماچے بھی ہے پھول سے گالوں پہ آ جاؤ چچا غازی رو رو کے وہ چلائی عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی عباس کہاں ہو تم نہ سر پہ رہی چادر نہ سر پہ رہی چادر نہ میرا بچا بھائی عباس کہاں ہو تم اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد